Welcome back to Banfield. When the French president calls what you've done an immoral act and an immoral act of war, you better believe he's not the only one saying so. Leaders around the world are condemning Vladimir Putin today, saying it may have been a war crime what we witnessed yesterday when his forces bombed a maternity ward, a maternity hospital, a pediatric wing in Mariupol. We now know at least 3 people died, including a child. 17 more were injured. For his part, Russia's president insists the hospital was actually being used as a base for extremists. But his foreign minister maybe didn't get that memo because Sergei Lavrov just flatly said Russia doesn't bomb civilian targets. And that's the end of that. But while they go ahead and work that out between them, what position does that leave the rest of the world? Should we send weapons to Ukraine? Close the airspace and begin combat operations against Russian pilots who don't behave? Is a diplomatic negotiation even possible with Putin? He's been called a madman many times. And President Biden recently said that he doesn't believe Putin has a soul at all. That would seemingly leave little room for negotiation. But I am joined by someone who knows all about finding pathways to peace and pathways to calm where there don't appear to be any at all. And it's Dr. Deepak Chopra, one of the world's foremost spiritual teachers. He's also the founder of the Chopra Foundation, a nonprofit focused on well-being and humanitarianism. He's written 92 books, and that was not a typo. It's actually 92 books. And the 92nd is this latest one entitled Abundance. Deepak Chopra, it's really great to have you on. And I'm actually so glad because I feel as though the last 2 weeks have been overwhelming just to turn on the television, let alone broadcast an hour-long newscast in the subject matter every day. So my first question is sort of broad and a little nebulous, but how do we process what we are watching right now?
From time to time, a psychopath or a sociopath becomes a leader and surrounds himself, it's always a male, surrounds himself with other psychopaths and sociopaths who have no conscience. That's how we define a psychopath. And they are faithful to the leader. The majority of the people are bamboozled by propaganda, so they don't know how to handle it. That's my answer to your first question. We're dealing with a psychopath. Somebody, you called him a madman, right?
Yeah, and I think that the other part of the question is like, a lot of people right away respond through charity, and they give to the Red Cross and they give to UNICEF and Save the Children because there is just this feeling of helplessness. But even giving money doesn't help to get the helplessness to go away. And what are we to do about this? What else can we do?
You know that video that you just showed of 2 elderly people overwhelming 4 soldiers with machine guns, that could happen on a mass scale. It has happened in the past, particularly when the Indian uprising took place, the nonviolent movement initiated by Mahatma Gandhi. So imagine, instead of those 2 elderly people, if there was a mass uprising that would confront these brutal people, and that would overwhelm them. And that can be orchestrated. You know, the only way to get rid of a leader like this is for their own people to actually overwhelm him. It cannot be done from outside forces. So now that you have so much ability to, through cyber, technology, to influence people through social media, through news networks, but also to actually invade the media space on a really mass level, and not do so with aggression, but ask people, how are you doing right now? Can you be helped? What are the incentives you can have economically? What's going to happen to your children? What's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your health? What's going to happen to your survival? Infuse that kind of motivation into a mass psychology. So the uprising is from within. And that can happen. And that requires today's technology. It doesn't require weapons. Sanctions are good, but they affect everyone. Sanctions affect because the world is so interdependent.
Yeah, they affect us. I mean, your gas prices went up by about 20% overnight in some places in the country. This is your latest book. I still cannot believe that you've written 92 books. I had to double check that number because I don't know anybody who's written 92 books. But its title is Abundance, the Inner Path to Wealth. And you've always been sort of the man that I've thought, finds the path to inner peace and seems to be able to understand the art of negotiation, too, between intransigent parties. But when you think of a man like Vladimir Putin, it's a little like a man who storms into your house and then shoots up the place and demands that the negotiation will begin with me owning the top 2 floors. How on earth do you even begin to negotiate with a partner like that?
You can't. You cannot negotiate with somebody who's insane and surrounds himself with insane people. But you can negotiate and start a process of conscious communication with the masses. Treat them with respect, recognize that there's the perception of injustice on all sides, be prepared to forgive, ask for forgiveness, don't be belligerent, use emotional intelligence, don't stereotype, and always recognize that ideological arguments don't work. They never work, so that's not the point. The point is, what will happen in 5 years if this continues, or even 6 months? What will happen if it doesn't? What's the economic benefit, and what will happen to the masses? So the communication here and the negotiation here, conscious communication, has to be with the masses through media and technology. There's so much technology. These youngsters know everything, how to do that. Combine that with really good conscious communication. What are we observing? What do we feel? What's the need of the moment? And expressing vulnerability on all sides. What's the solution collectively?
Dr. Chopra, it's really good to have you on, and I'm just glad to have a very peaceful conversation amidst such traumatic, and just overwhelming information every day. The images and the reports. It's been a pretty tough 2 weeks, I think, for everybody, and particularly the people of Ukraine. Your new book is called Abundance, the Inner Path to Wealth. Thank you so much. It's on pre-order now, and I look forward to our next opportunity to talk. Thanks, Deepak.
Thank you. Really enjoyed your show. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.